So today we're talking about Alien 3, the first movie, I should say, from feature filmmaker extraordinaire David Fincher. And Alien 3 is a movie that I have been kind of thinking about talking about for a while here or there, but I never really had a good format to put it on. I never had a good way of talking about it, really, until now. So I figured, why not? And Alien 3, it should be said, the version that I'll be discussing mostly is the assembly cut of the movie, the quote-unquote director's cut that isn't a director's cut because of David Fincher's beef with the studio and the movie itself, which we'll get into in a minute, but I'm talking about the assembly cut. If you haven't seen the assembly cut of Alien 3, I'd highly recommend it, just to get that out of the way up front. Alien 3 is my second favorite Alien movie behind the original. I think it's better than Aliens, the James Cameron action movie. I think it's far better than Alien 4. I think it's better than Prometheus, Alien Covenant, and both of the AVP movies. I think Alien 3 is really actually a great movie and highly underrated as far as sci-fi movies go and as far as this Alien franchise goes. I think it's not talked about enough. It's a great movie that kind of, after Aliens was this big action movie, it kind of took Alien as a franchise back down to what the first one was, which was this dark horror thriller kind of movie, and Alien 3 does that, and it does it in a lot more, even more morbid fashion than the first Alien does. This movie is all about darkness, and the whole thing is incredibly depressing. There's no happy ending. Nobody's happy in the movie. Everyone's just depressed and hates each other, and then it ends with people being depressed and hating each other. It's not a happy movie at all. And that's why I like this movie, because mainly the themes of the movie, what I love about the movie is sort of the themes. It definitely has some religious subtext to it, where this alien infests a prison on a remote planet after Sigourney Weaver, Ripley, crashes down from space. There's an alien facehugger in her pod in space, and their ship crash lands, and she's the only survivor. The people from Aliens, everyone from Aliens is just dead in the first scene of Alien 3, which I thought was great. And she gets her body pulled out of the spaceship by these convicts that are just staying at this abandoned prison because they don't know what else to do and they can't leave. And so the movie is about her dealing with an alien again in this prison with these rapists, these murderers, these horrible, horrible people who are trying to sort of get their lives straightened out in this isolation. And they do horrible things, of course, and there's a lot of subtext in this movie in regards to religion. Like I was saying, the prisoners in the facility have this sort of religion. One of them is sort of the head of it, and he chastises them, and he dishes out punishment for their sins. And then when the alien actually starts running around, which it always does in these alien movies, one of the characters who's kind of insane starts to view it as a godly figure, and he starts becoming obsessed with it. And Sigourney Weaver, at the end, when she kills herself because she finds out that there is a queen alien inside of her, so she jumps into a lava pit and kills herself to sacrifice herself so that this creature doesn't get out and infest Earth. When she jumps backwards into the lava, she kind of takes the form of a cross, which is to imply that she's saving mankind. So there is some interesting subtext in this movie that makes it way more compelling to me than something like Aliens or Alien 4 or Prometheus. Prometheus tries to sort of harken back to these kind of thematics, but it kind of fails. But most of the Alien movies are just simplistic alien runs around and kills people kind of movies. Aliens is a pretty good action movie, I'll give it that. Alien 1 is a incredibly well-made horror movie. It doesn't have very many themes, it's just very well executed and incredibly intense. And then Alien 3 is sort of the first one to attempt to have commentary or say something with this franchise. And it was met with incredible critical and audience panning. Most people, when they went and saw this, didn't like it. And this is evident in its scores even today. The backlash it has, most people say it's their least favorite one. Obviously, I didn't get to go see it in theaters because I wasn't even alive yet. But now that I have seen it, I've seen it a bunch of times with the other movies. It's my second favorite behind Alien. Again, I think David Fincher, the skill that David Fincher shows in this movie is on par, if not better, than anybody else that's helmed these movies. I think his direction and cinematography and color palette and execution of this movie is better than Aliens. It's better than 4. It's better than Prometheus. It's better than Alien Covenant. It's better than all the AVP movies. And I do say this being somebody that actually does like Prometheus and thinks that Prometheus is one of the most visually stunning movies in the franchise. But David Fincher has such a grasp on blocking shots, of composing shots, and really drawing out the tension of scenes with his editing. And it's apparent in this movie too. And even though this movie has sort of been he's distanced himself from completely. He has talked about this not very much because of how horrible the experience was for him, but it was his first feature film. He directed a whole bunch of music videos that had critical acclaim. They're very visually stylistic, and so he got this job on Alien 3, and since he was the newbie, the new guy on the block who had no street cred, the studio walked all over him, and he has cited it as one of the worst experiences of his whole life. He hates the movie for that, and he doesn't hold anything against anybody that doesn't like the movie because of that. Apparently, when he came on set, they didn't have a script. They were building sets that they eventually didn't use. They went way over budget. They went way over time. They would send studio suits in to manage him and to try and tell him what should be in the movie and what should not be in the movie. And then even Ridley Scott at one point came in and was like, I know you're dealing with some stuff. Just get the project over with, let it boost your career, and go on to do what you actually want to do. And that's what he did. It was lucky that this movie didn't ruin his career, because he shortly went on to make some of the best movies ever made, like Fight Club, like Panic Room, like The Game, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Seven, Gone Girl. I mean, he's one of the most prolific directors working today, and it almost didn't happen because Alien 3 disheartened him so much. And you can find interviews where he talks about it very sparingly. He just says that he hates it, he doesn't want to talk about it. And I get it. I mean, hearing the stories, it must have been brutal. Absolutely brutal to make this movie. There's even scenes in the movie as it is that the studio told him he can't shoot. There's a scene when Sigourney Weaver goes into the basement of this prison and she's like talking to the alien because she knows that it won't hurt her because she has the queen inside her. And she's like, come on out, I want to get you. You've been in my life so long, I don't remember anything else. And it's a wonderful scene that the studio said absolutely not to. And so David Fincher decided to just grab a camera, grab Sigourney Weaver, and then just shoot it on their own. So he's a very passionate director, and it does show in this movie. Despite him not liking it, despite a lot of people not liking it, I think this is the most visually interesting movie in the series. And, I mean, that's a bold statement because Prometheus is visually gorgeous, and Alien is visually gorgeous, and even Aliens to some degree is, but the way that he manipulates the camera especially is so interesting. There's so many low shots and so many sweeping camera movements, but they're all kept very low. Everything, a lot of times the camera is looking up at everything. And it's an incredibly interesting way of shooting that he didn't really employ going forward, at least not to the extent that it is in this movie. He's usually the kind of guy that he shoots scenes very omnipotently, and that's similar here, where he shoots scenes as if there's no one manipulating the camera. It's as if the camera is just a piece of the scene that's just capturing the moment. And I love that from him. I love that he does it here. I love that he just does it in general. It makes everything so much more interesting. Because even in this one, there's so many shots where the camera will be low and just sweeping in to view something, or it'll be low and there's a shot when the alien comes out of the ceiling and it lands on a bed, and it's this low shot under the bed, and you just see the bed sink almost to the floor, and you don't ever see the alien, but you know what's there. And it's this visual way of telling the story that makes this movie more interesting than something like Aliens, because Aliens is a 80s action movie. It's explosive, it's loud, there's tons of stuff happening, everything is shown very clearly. And in this one, it takes a way more subdued approach. Like I said, that shot, you hear it drop onto the bed, and you see the bed concave as it's landing on it, and its weight is pushing the mattress to the floor. And you see that, and you say, nothing can do that except the alien. So you know what it is immediately without him having to show you it. And so it builds the tension of the scene, and you get a couple point of view shots from the alien, and Sigourney Weaver's getting a shot from her doctor, and then the doctor just gets murdered, just brutally murdered. And it's graphic, it's violent, and it's a great payoff to the tension he set up with the visual way that he's shooting it. And the whole movie's like this. The whole movie is just incredibly visual and incredibly well done. I mean, obviously, this movie was sort of unfinished. The assembly cut is a cut of the movie cobbled together of footage from the producers that put out the special editions of all of the Alien movies. They just took notes from David Fincher on how he wanted to make the movie, and then just kind of cobbled it together as close as they could to what he wanted to do. So technically, it's a director's cut, but he wants nothing to do with it, so it's called the assembly cut. And obviously, when something like this happens, the movie's unfinished. So the special effects in the movie look like trash. Apparently, for whatever reason, they decided to make the alien a puppet that they matted into the scene later. Which doesn't make sense, because in the movie, they have this amazing costume for the alien. Because in Alien and Aliens, the actual Xenomorph were just guys in rubber suits, and they would shoot, like Ridley Scott and James Cameron sort of shot the scene around that. So in Alien, there's a couple of times where it's obvious that it's just a guy in a suit, but the way that Ridley Scott shot Alien makes this rubber suit feel real and feel like an actual alien. And in Alien 3, they have a suit a lot like that, and it's huge, and it's got its mouth dripping, and it's all got completely it's got a ton of moving parts, and it looks great. So anytime there's a close-up shot of somebody and the alien leaning into the frame, it's this costume, and it looks amazing, and it's intimidating. And then it will cut to the wide, and it's this tiny puppet that's just matted digitally into the frame, and it looks atrocious. And it doesn't, the scale of it compared to the costume is completely different. And I'm just I was so lost on why they did this. Apparently, in the theatrical cut, I've seen the theatrical cut, so I shouldn't say apparently. In the theatrical cut, the alien comes out of a dog, so it would make sense that it's small. It would make sense that the alien's size is based on its host. So making it a small creature makes a lot of sense. But then why have that for the assembly cut, where the alien comes out of an ox, and the alien costume is huge, to show that the alien, its scale is dependent on the host? And that's such a cool, awesome idea. And the scene when the alien is bursting out of the ox is amazing, because they wheel in this ox, and then it intersplices the alien bursting out of this ox with this religious cult, I'll say for lack of a better word, saying some religious text while some people are being buried, in quotes. And it's cutting in between the alien bursting out of the ox and this burial ceremony. And it's the most amazing juxtaposition in an alien movie. It's an incredibly well orchestrated scene, and seeing the alien come out of the ox and being huge is really cool, really great. It's a really great idea from David Fincher, and the suit is awesome. And then they just made this tiny puppet to be put in later. It's such a disappointing studio note, and it's clear that it is a studio note. They're like, we don't like this. We gotta change it. We gotta make it smaller. I don't know. And it sucks, because it does kind of affect the assembly cut. As much as I love it, seeing that little terrible visual effect run around really does dampen some scenes, where it's just this little itty bitty thing running about, and it looks really herky-jerky, and it doesn't move very well. It just doesn't look good. It just does not look good. And I'll say as well, the assembly cut is like 2.5 hours, and the theatrical is under 2. So there is a lot added to this movie. There's like whole subplots that are literally added to this movie. There's one where they lock the alien in this, I think it's like a radioactive vault. I can't remember what it is exactly, but they lock it in this room, and the insane guy that I talked about earlier decides that he views the alien as a religious icon, and so he lets it out of the vault, and it just murders him instantly. And that's another thing. This movie is incredibly nihilistic, which leads into what I was talking about earlier with the morbid thematics of the movie. It is very nihilistic. It takes the sort of religious commentary that it has and then says that they're wrong. The movie basically points a finger at religion for most of the movie, and then uses the alien to say, no, it's just baloney. And if you worship something, you probably are worshiping it for the wrong reasons, or connecting two dots that shouldn't be connected. So the movie is very nihilistic, and apparently the guy that plays Bishop the android in Aliens, I can't remember his name. Oh well. He's back in Alien 3, even though he didn't want to be. The studios convinced him, probably paid him way more than they wanted to, because he thought the movie was so nihilistic and so dark and depressing that he didn't want to be a part of it. So that's that. There's that. If you're not into feel bad movies, this isn't for you at all. But I kind of love that sometimes. Occasionally you do need, I think, a good feel bad movie where you're like, okay, I need to question some things, and it feels good in a way to feel bad sometimes. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone on that, but I do really like the movie. I think it's excellent. It's unfortunate what happened with David Fincher in the studio. I really wish they could have come to some compromise. I really wish he could have made the movie he wanted to make, because it's clear now, especially with hindsight, that he's an incredible director. He's an incredibly talented director, and I'm sure the studio's kicking themselves for doing this to him, because he's probably kind of blacklisted the people that he worked for at this point, and he's so influential now. So it is unfortunate that this movie ended up being like this. I think if he was able to make the movie he wanted to make, I think my issues with the assembly cut would be gone. I don't think we would have the dreadful special effects we have. I don't think we would have the minor pacing issues we have due to a bloated runtime. I don't think we'd have that. I think this movie would be just another shining example of how great this Alien franchise is. And as it is, I think it still is one of the best ones. So if you haven't seen this one, or if you saw it once in theaters, or you saw the theatrical edition and decided that you hated it, I'd say give it another try. I'd say watch the assembly cut, and if you still don't like it, alright, I understand. It's dark. It's depressing. It's long. I get it. But give it another try. Give it another try. I think it's severely underrated. I think it's one of my favorites from David Fincher. I watch it pretty regularly, actually, once every few months here and there. I mean, I watch all the Alien movies once every few months here and there because I think they're wonderful. But yeah, Alien 3. Do you like it? Have you seen it? Do you hate it? You can leave a comment letting me know if you want. I'll probably see it. I don't know if I'll respond, but yeah, that's Alien 3. Next week, I think I'm going to be discussing Mandy. I'm not completely convinced that I want to do Mandy next week, but we'll just say that I'll do it. We'll do 2018 Nicolas Cage starring Mandy next week. So, I'll see you then. Goodbye.